With really an extraordinary apology from the nation's top general, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley, expressing deep regret over taking part in President Trump's photo op last week when they walked from the White House across Lafayette Park to St. John's Church across from the White House. Defense Secretary Mark Esper already has said that he regrets having been there. You see the photo we're talking about right there. A slew of former top military leaders, you will remember, have in recent days also offered up biting criticism of the president's response to the protests. But even with that kind of chorus of anger and criticism over the president's response, it is today's comments by the current Joint Chiefs Chairman that really stick out, that really are making news. Let me play Mark Milley's remarks to the graduating class at the National Defense University.
Many of you saw the result of the photograph of me at Lafayette Square last week. That sparked a national debate about the role of the military in civil society. I should not have been there. My presence in that moment and in that environment created a perception of the military involved in domestic politics. As a commissioned, uniformed officer, it was a mistake that I have learned from, and I sincerely hope we all can learn from it.
CNN's Barbara Starr is at the Pentagon. She's joining me now. Barbara, what are you hearing about this, and what else did he say?
Well, Kate, General Milley is making a very specific point here that really is resonating across the ranks, and I think he hopes resonates with the American people, that as a serving officer, as chairman, guardian of keeping the U.S. military out of partisan politics, he is now apologizing. He shouldn't have been there. It had the aura of a political event, and he says he should not have been there. You know, it's extraordinary. He is apologizing. He's owning it without any qualification. He is just standing up and saying what he now really wants people to know is that he shouldn't have been there. So he goes on and says a bit more about how he viewed everything that happened.
And we should all be proud that the vast majority of protests have been peaceful. Peaceful protest means that American freedom is working. And I'm also proud of the response of our National Guard forces, who provided excellent support to local law and state enforcement under the control of state governors in more than 30 states across the country. We never introduced federal troops on the streets of America as a result of the combined efforts of the National Guard and law enforcement at quelling the violence and de-escalating very, very tense situations. We all know that our system in the United States is imperfect, full of passionate debate, and continually evolving. And we in the military will continue to protect the rights and freedoms of all the American people.
Perhaps the most important thing here is not the politics, but Milley, along with Esper, had sought very much last week to dissuade President Trump from even the notion of activating active duty military troops, putting active duty troops on the streets in Washington, D.C. and cities where there was unrest. Milley is telling everyone that peaceful protest is a good thing, that the American military does not take to the streets against the American people. Kate?
Barbara, thank you so much. Joining me right now is CNN military analyst, retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. General, it's great to see you, man. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs publicly breaking with the president, doing something that the president never does. Apologizing. What's your reaction to this?
I had a strong reaction to it, very positive, Kate. This is something, this action of 10 days ago has been, reverberating through the military community. Many people like me did not like what General Milley did, what Secretary Esper did as being part of that photo op. For General Milley to now step forward and to say, hey, this was a wrong move, and the audience he stepped forward to do it to, I think really says good things about the status of civil-military relationships and is a positive that's coming out of this. A lot of people are talking about these kind of things. What is the proper role of the military in the civil-military relationship? And General Milley saying this morning at a graduation of the National Defense University is a big deal.
Talk to me about the venue. Do you think that's significant that he chose this moment, this graduation speech to speak about this?
Yeah, I'll first inform your audience, because many might not know, Kate, that the National Defense University is not a college where 20-year-olds are graduating. This is the National War College. It's one of many war colleges in the military, and the attendees are senior level military people who have been chosen to attend. So this is a group of up-and-comers. They're colonels and captains in the Navy and the Coast Guard. And at this particular venue, there's also senior executives from many of the agencies like the CIA, the State Department, USAID. They have been in a year's worth of study learning about how to apply national strategy. So for Milley to address that, I'm a graduate of the National War College, and for Milley to address that audience with these words really says to them, hey, I was wrong to do it, but it also sends a very nuanced message of, you should never do something like this. Learn from my mistakes. The military is sacrosanct in terms of how they deal in politics.
I also noticed he's not criticizing the photo op. He's not criticizing the forceful clearing of protesters that happened right beforehand as they were walking over, right? He's saying very clearly he shouldn't have been there. This is on me. I should not have been part of that walkover. Is that distinction significant?
It is, because what he's saying, which is what all military senior leaders wrestle with, this civil military relations, is, hey, I'm a servant of the nation. I adhere to the Constitution of the United States. I may disagree with the political leaders, but I'm never going to outwardly say that. I will obey the orders that I'm given as long as they're not illegal, immoral, or unethical. Now, the president, on the other hand, doing this photo op, you can debate that all you want, American people, but don't pull me into that debate, because I am your guardian. I have pledged my oath to defend elected officials if they're giving me legal orders.
With me now is retired Army Brigadier General Peter Zwack, who is a global fellow at the Wilson Center's Kennan Institute, and he was also one of 280-some former national security officials who signed a letter criticizing the president's push to use active duty military against demonstrators. General, thank you so much for joining me.
And pleasure's mine.
You know General Milley. What does it say to you that he made this apology?
I think that there's the profound words he mentioned yesterday. I am not immune. And that is a recognition that our times are evolving, they're fluid, situations change, legacies change. That was a brave statement. I've served on the Joint Staff. I've seen General Milley in Afghanistan. I've seen him on the Army staff. I saw him as the president of a court-martial court, and I've seen him as the chairman. He is a moral man. He is a principled man, and he's struggling with these plate tectonic changes that are going on in our country. But to say I'm not immune is a recognition that one needs to adjust and grapple as legacies and evolve. And this goes on everything with with what occurred with George Floyd and what happened out in front of Lafayette, in the church in Lafayette Square, and the renaming, if you will, bases. No, I have the utmost respect for him standing up there and doing that, writing his letter, very personal letter on the 2nd of June. So I think he's doing the right thing.
So look, I think we all know just from watching when administration officials go against the president, what they're really opening themselves up to, right? Certainly not professional stability, if we want to sort of say it that way. So knowing that, I wonder what kind of pressures do you think Milley was dealing with when it came to, I guess you mentioned legacy. If he had not done this, what would this have meant for his legacy and even how other top brass would see him?
I don't think he could have lived with himself after something if he had stayed silent. He obviously was troubled during the event as it dawned on him what was going on. Loyalty, yes, there's a loyalty by oath to the Constitution, and you support the commander-in-chief. But loyalty, Brianna, goes two ways, and a military leader is such a consequential. The biggest loyalty that he owes the president is his candor and his perspective on all the experiences of his extensive career. That's what real loyalty is. It goes two ways. It just doesn't go to an individual. His first loyalty is to the Constitution. He serves the commander-in-chief, but if he has deep, deep misgivings, there is a judiciary and a legislator to take it to as well.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us. General Zwack, we appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine, the honor.